Hello, fellow preppers. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you Friday, March the 18th. The year's 2022. Let's talk trading. It is time for the weekly wrap-up. As always, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Looking at the weekly, we turned green this week. We took out the weekly pivot. That was something that we were looking for at the beginning of the week, because when you look at the pivot statistics, you usually don't have three missed weekly pivots in a row. That's just not, statistically, it doesn't happen that often. It happens not that often. And looking at the chart, you can see here we went in and out of that lower weekly wick zone, and we are now 190 pips off the bottom. So anybody trading a rat, if they got in today, yesterday, you definitely were paid off. And if we switch up to the month, once again, 189 pips off the low. And you can see we're right near the monthly future pivot point at the moment. The daily, yesterday was almost a doji. You can see here we broke out of the lower wick zone to the upside here. And we are now in the upper wick zone for the previous day. Big wick zone. So 190 pips off the yearly low, monthly low, and weekly low. So what's that tell you? There's that yearly low, 1.29991. So anybody jumping in at the 1.30, you're up about 189 pips at the moment. Inside bar action, we had some. We might even close today as an inside bar. We've got a couple of hours left in the week, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Only 86 pip range. You can see we do have 8 pairs over 100 pips, but only 86 on the pound. Looking at the buy zone, we had a buy trigger earlier in the Asian session and towards the end. Then we got a couple of sell triggers here, and then we turned right around and screamed through the buy zone, crossed that daily open, triggering here or here, depending. Or you could have, looked to the left. You see nothing but green, green, green. You can see in and out of that previous hour's lower wick zone, and then came back up to the top. Green rats. What we did was, you see here, we went coast to coast and then to coast. So we definitely wrapped through it. So green rats were definitely paid off huge, as well as the red rats were paid off nicely. But remember, when this hit, there probably wasn't enough range for red rats, but if you were just playing a price action trade, you probably got in on that short. Okay, the pivot trading plan is kind of interesting here. We're right here at the pivot, was right near the open, and price just pretty much has been oscillating across that open. The Bambino Flex indicator triggered a short or short bias, but that never quite happened. So if we look here, actually, let's go back here for a second. Here's the S1, here's the R1. We weren't very close to it. S1 was just below yesterday's low. That's what called for the short. And yesterday's high was just above R1. So that's why we got a short. And looking at the daily, we took out the pivot. You can see we actually went back and tested the previous day's pivot, and turned around and bounced. On the weekly, as I mentioned, 3 consecutive misses only happened 2 times out of the last 250 weeks. So that's about a 1% occurrence. So that's why those of you who trade with statistics, put them on your side, you can see how it's profitable. As I mentioned earlier, we had almost a doji on the daily candle, so we just been in and out of the upper and lower wick zone all day. And looking at the smart ranges, you can see we exceeded the ATR 12. Our range this week's 438 at the moment in the 66th percentile. As you can see here, we beat the last 3 months. We didn't break out of the high, but we did break out of the low by 273 pips. Right now we're 85 pips below it, below the previous month's low. So high minus close 250 for the rat zone traders. Close minus low 188 once again for the rat zone trader. The buy zone trader, high minus the open was only 20 pips, but open minus the low is 417. So if you were trading short, you had an opportunity to pick up some huge pips there. And that's looking at the monthly. Let's come back to the weekly. Okay, 211. So we're right at the ATR, 50%. And last week we had a 211 range. This week we have a 211 range. Just slightly offset here. We have a lower high and a lower low. For the month, we didn't break out of the previous, or for the week, we didn't break out of the previous week's high. We did break out of the previous week's low by 28 pips. So once again, just taking those simple trades. Horizontal lines can prove profitable, but you've got to take your pips off the table before the market takes it back. High minus close 23 for red rats. Close minus low 188 for the green rats on the week. Buy zone traders, high to open 179, open to low 33. So those trades paid off once again. And it's just a matter of picking something, sticking with it, making sure your execution is as flawless as possible. One of the things I've noticed about my trades this week, sometimes I'm just not quick enough on the draw, it seems like. I don't want to rush it, so when I wait for a price to get to the line, by the time I click it, I've sometime left a pip or two on the table. In fact, today, it was really bad. I said, okay, if it gets to this point, I'll jump in. Well, it blew right through it. I clicked the mouse, and I was 3 pips above my entry, which, put me in that trade for longer than I wanted, because right after I got in, of course, it retraced, and then it came back. But I guess sometimes trying not to rush trades, I guess I still have to work on the timing. And the thing about it is, when we talk about these trades, in fact, let me just put a chart up here. For example, I like to trade the lower high here. So on M5, you can see here it gave me 2 opportunities. But, the first time, if I would have jumped in, maybe it would have stuck me in at that high point. So sometimes it's almost better maybe to try and get in at 1 pip better. As soon as you see the price moving in your direction, doesn't quite hit that level, just jump in. Because what I usually see happens is I get in and then price will pull back and then go back in my direction. And so even when I'll come down to the 1-minute chart, you can see here what happened. You put in that lower high, you wait, but might not have gotten into here. But in this particular case, it would have paid off nicely. Then it gave you a second opportunity to come back in. And this is something I've been noticing about these trades. And what it looks like is happening, we could always tell a story. But you can see here, price came in, put in an imbalance, and then price came back, filled that imbalance, and then took off. I don't know if I want to buy that as what happened, but when you see something happen a lot, then you may say there might be something to it. So, for example, off of this trade, this three ball, you can see price crossed over this line, came back, and then, almost filled that imbalance and then took off again. It's just something to look for. So it just seems, price doesn't just usually just doesn't move in a straight line. So it's like if you get one of these nice big candles, it's almost like take your profit at the close of the candle because it could come back the other way. Then, of course, it could do this or it could do this on you. But, that's just trading. But you have to decide how you want to make that play. And the thing is, it's just really tough. You just have to decide how much you're willing to give back. And maybe if you analyze and you go, okay, well, that imbalance filled and there's a little imbalance there, maybe it'll fill. If it comes back and then breaks, take the break. Here it came back, almost came back to this area, but then again, you take that break. And a lot of times, instead of exiting the trade, some traders will actually stack on at that level. And it just depends. If you're riding a profit for the day, you're up, say, 10 or 20 pips, then maybe you can go for the big one. Because let's say you have a 10 pip goal for the day, but you're up 20. You kind of have 10 pips to play with. I don't like to say it's house money, but you've achieved your goal. Now you can risk those other 10 pips to say maybe make yourself another 20 pips. It just depends on how you're trading. If it was really tough getting those 20 pips, maybe it's time to quit. But if it was relatively stress-free and price just keeps going your way, then maybe you're on a hot streak, and so you just keep trading. But just looking at the price action here, it's up and down and up, and then right back through that point. Where do you take the profit? Where do you decide to take that profit? That's where your money management comes in, and you have to decide that ahead of time. You know what you want out of the trade. It's like maybe you only want 2 pips this trade, and all of a sudden it gives you 5. Okay, now you've got 3 to play with. And you say, okay, I'll move my stop loss up. So the worst thing that can happen is I collect my 2 pips, but hey, maybe I can get 10 pips. Or, sometimes you'll just say, you know what, I'll just take all the pips off the table and I don't care. And I'll just wait for another signal. Especially if pips have been hard to get, it's better to take them off the table. Because the worst thing is to be up a pip or 2 and then wind up stopping out for a loss. At least that's the worst thing in my mind, or one of the worst things. I guess maybe the worst thing is having the trade go against you and just taking your whole account out. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Let's see. Okay, so once again, looking at the ATRs, you can see the low was 33% from the open. The high was 45. Once again, we have 86 pip range with ATR is 110. And it just didn't quite get there. We have the reversals indicators saying it was okay to reverse. So at least on monthly, weekly, daily. And then this is your shorter terms telling you which direction to trade to reach that ATR. So, fellow traders, I hope you had a profitable week, and I hope you have a fun and safe weekend. And I really hope the videos, this series, Trading Better, is helping you. Let me know in the comments. So, as always, when you come back to your trading terminal, always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is TheRumpledOne, over and out.